The sun was barely rising over Willowbrook when everything changed, when a trembling young woman with rain-soaked hair and eyes full of quiet desperation stopped a man she barely knew and asked a question that should have belonged only in movies, not in the fragile reality she lived in. Her voice cracked as she spoke, a soft quiver that hid years of hurt, and the man, a single father simply trying to keep life steady for his little girl, froze with shock, because he could tell her request wasn't a joke, wasn't a dare, wasn't anything close to something easy. It was survival, it was a plea, it was a heart reaching out in its last attempt not to break. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of unexpected connections, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Light. Your support helps stories like this shine brighter. Aurelia Hart had grown used to the ache of loneliness following her like a shadow. She worked double shifts at a small, town grocery store, lived in a cramped studio apartment with peeling wallpaper, and survived each month by counting spare coins in jars. Most days she told herself she was fine, that she didn't need anyone. But that morning, as she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, mascara slightly smudged from the exhaustion that never fully left her, she realized she couldn't carry everything alone anymore. Her younger sister, Marin, was getting married, and Aurelia had been invited with a guest. It wasn't a romantic formality, it was pressure. Her family had always treated her like the odd one out, the girl who never measured up, the one who wouldn't understand love anyway. Going alone meant facing whispers, pity, and the painful reminder that she was the sibling who never quite became anything. The thought of showing up alone again made her stomach twist. She needed someone beside her, someone who would make her look like she belonged, someone who would help her survive the day. But she had no boyfriend, no close friends she could ask, no coworker she trusted that deeply. All she had was her quiet courage and a tiny glimmer of hope that maybe somewhere someone might help. That was when she met Rowan Calder. Rowan was a single father who lived 2 blocks from the store where Aurelia worked. He was known in town for his calm manner and for the way he always carried his daughter, little Evie, with gentle hands and soft eyes. He worked long hours as a carpenter, building cabinets and repairing old porches for neighbors who needed help but couldn't afford much. Life had not been kind to him either. His wife had passed away when Evie was still learning to say her first words. Since then, Rowan had done everything in his power to give his daughter a stable, warm life, even if it meant sacrificing sleep, hobbies, friendships, or any dream that didn't revolve around her happiness. That morning, Rowan and Evie were on their way to the park. Evie was talking about birds. She had recently learned how to identify them by sound. When Aurelia stepped into their path, she hadn't meant to. Her feet had simply carried her forward after she saw Rowan's kind eyes and steady presence, as if her heart recognized something safe before her mind understood what she was doing. Her voice shook as she explained her request. Not fully, not clearly, but Rowan understood enough to realize she was standing at the edge of something painful. Evie clung shyly to his hand, tilting her head curiously at the stranger, with teary lashes and hands twisting nervously in her sleeves. Rowan's instinct wasn't to say no, it was to protect. Protection had become second nature to him, and when he looked into Aurelia's face, he saw someone who needed protection just as fiercely as his daughter once had. He didn't know her story, her struggles, or the depth of the loneliness sitting heavy in her heart, but he sensed sincerity, and fear, and something else, the courage it took to ask for help at all. He said yes. The word felt strange in his mouth, not because it was unnatural, but because it carried weight. He didn't understand why he said it so easily, but Evie smiled at Aurelia, and that was enough for Rowan. Later that day, they met at a small cafe to discuss what Aurelia needed. She was embarrassed, flustered, rambling at times, trying not to cry. Rowan listened quietly, nodding gently, letting her finish without interruption. She told him about her sister's wedding, about the humiliation she wanted to avoid, about the years of feeling like the family disappointment. She didn't mention poverty outright, but Rowan could hear it in the pauses between her words, in the small details she avoided explaining too deeply. Rowan agreed to accompany her, not as a performance or a burden, but as a gesture of compassion. His heart felt unexpectedly moved by her vulnerability and by her strength. Evie, sitting beside him with a hot chocolate mustache, announced that she wanted to come too. She liked Aurelia, she liked her soft voice, she said. Aurelia laughed for the first time in days, a sound fragile but real. On the day of the wedding, sunlight streamed through the trees, painting the outdoor venue with a golden glow. Aurelia's dress wasn't expensive, but she looked radiant in it, beautiful in a quiet, understated way. Rowan wore a simple suit, slightly worn but clean and dignified. Evie wore a pale yellow dress and insisted on holding Aurelia's hand as they walked into the bustling celebration. Aurelia felt Rowan's presence beside her like armor. For the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel inadequate. She didn't feel like the girl who failed at everything. With Rowan by her side and Evie's tiny hand wrapped around her fingers, she felt like someone who mattered. Her family noticed immediately. They stared, some with surprise, some with jealousy, some with grudging respect. Aurelia held her breath, waiting for the whispers and snide remarks, but they didn't come. Rowan's calm, steady energy created a quiet barrier around her, an invisible shield that made her feel unapologetically whole. Throughout the day, Rowan introduced himself kindly to everyone who approached. He spoke warmly about Aurelia, praising her strength, her kindness, her resilience. Aurelia could barely speak at times, not because she was pretending, but because she had never been spoken about with such sincerity before. No one had ever looked at her the way Rowan did, with genuine admiration. As the wedding continued, Aurelia found herself laughing, smiling, even dancing. Rowan danced with Evie first, spinning her gently in circles while she giggled in delight. Then he danced with Aurelia, his hands steady on her waist, guiding her with quiet confidence. The moment felt unreal, soft, delicate, fragile, like a dream she wasn't sure she was allowed to have. But dreams end. After the wedding, as they walked home beneath the fading daylight, Aurelia knew the day was over. The illusion, if it had been one, had served its purpose. She tried to prepare her heart for the quiet loneliness waiting for her, but Rowan surprised her again. He asked if she wanted to join him and Evie for dinner sometime. Maybe at the park, or at the cafe, or anywhere she felt comfortable. His voice wasn't hesitant or polite. It was hopeful. Aurelia felt her chest tighten, not with fear, but with something tender and new. In the months that followed, the three of them grew closer. Not in dramatic ways, but in small moments that built a life. Grocery store visits, morning walks, evenings with simple dinners, laughter echoing across Rowan's small living room as Evie showed off drawings from school. Aurelia found herself feeling something she hadn't felt in years, belonging, and Rowan, who had spent so long suppressing his own longing, found himself letting her in, piece by piece, until she became a vital part of the home he had built for Evie. Their bond wasn't fast or explosive. It was slow, healing, steady, like sunlight filtering through leaves after a long winter. They grew together, they healed together, they loved, quietly, tenderly, fiercely. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Light. Your engagement supports emotional storytelling and helps others discover hope through stories like this. Special request: comment below what moment in the story moved you the most. And as the sun rose again over Willowbrook, Aurelia stood beside Rowan and Evie, realizing she no longer needed to ask anyone to pretend. What had begun as a desperate request had blossomed into something real, something she never thought she deserved: a family, a future, a second chance at love.